Yes, she said. He told me I was nothing. He said he won. Good, Arthur said. Arrogance makes men careless. What are you going to do? She asked, hearing a shift in his tone. Arthur reached over and picked up a heavy black notebook from the table. He opened it to a page marked Julian Thorne, Contingencies. I'm going to make a few phone calls, Arthur said. Julian thinks he divorced a housewife. He's about to find out he declared war on the wrong family. Arthur hung up the phone. He didn't go to sleep. Instead, he walked over to a safe hidden behind a painting of a landscape. He spun the dial, left, right, left. The heavy steel door clicked open. Inside wasn't cash or jewelry. It was a stack of files, a satellite phone, and a Rolodex of numbers that hadn't been used in 15 years. Arthur Vance wasn't just a retired legal consultant. Before he retired to grow tomatoes, Arthur Vance had been the finest forensic accountant and corporate fixer on the East Coast. He was the man the billionaires called when they needed to destroy a rival without leaving a fingerprint. He was known in the inner circles simply as the Eraser. And he had just come out of retirement. November 2nd, 2023, Thorne Logistics Headquarters, 42nd floor. 2 weeks had passed since the divorce was finalized. For Julian, they had been the most profitable 2 weeks of his life. The stock price of Thorne Logistics was at an all-time high, fueled by rumors of a merger with Vanguard Global, a European shipping giant. Julian stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office, looking down at the ants scurrying along the streets of Manhattan. He felt like a god on Mount Olympus. The due diligence team from Vanguard is here, his assistant Jessica said, buzzing in on the intercom. Mr. Sterling wants to see the Q3 audit reports. Send them in, Julian said, smoothing his tie. And get me a coffee. Black. Mr. Sterling was a British man with eyes like polished flint. He walked in with 2 junior associates. They didn't look happy. Julian, Sterling said, skipping the pleasantries. We have a hiccup. Julian laughed, gesturing to the leather chairs. Sit down, Charles. There are no hiccups in my company, only speed bumps. What's the issue? The issue, Sterling said, remaining standing, is that our forensic team just flagged a discrepancy in your supply chain payments, specifically the vendor accounts in Panama. Julian felt a tiny prick of cold sweat on his lower back. Panama was where he funneled the skimmed profits, money he had hidden from Elena during the marriage. But that was buried deep, layers of shell companies. That's a glitch, Julian said smoothly. My CFO will clear that up in an hour. It's not just a glitch, Julian, Sterling said, dropping a file on the mahogany desk. The accounts don't exist anymore. Julian frowned. Excuse me? We tried to verify the liquidity of Apex Holdings, your subsidiary in Panama. The bank informed us that the accounts were closed yesterday morning. The funds were transferred to a charitable trust for victims of corporate fraud. The account balance is 0. Julian's stomach dropped. There was $6 million in that account. That's impossible, Julian stammered, his confident mask slipping for the first time. I have the access keys. Only I have the keys. Well, Sterling said, buttoning his jacket, until you find that $6 million, the merger is on hold. We don't do business with ghosts, Julian. Fix it. Sterling walked out. Julian lunged for his phone. He dialed his contact at the Panamanian bank. The line rang, and rang, and rang. Finally, a recording played. The number you have dialed has been disconnected. Julian slammed the phone down. What the hell is going on? Meanwhile, the Catskills. The morning air was crisp and smelled of pine needles. Elena sat on the porch of her father's cabin, wrapped in a heavy wool blanket. She was watching Arthur chop wood. For a man of 72, he moved with frightening efficiency. Thwack. The axe split the log perfectly down the center. Thwack. Another one. He hadn't mentioned Julian in 2 weeks. He cooked her breakfast, they went for walks, and he let her sleep. It was the peace she hadn't known she needed. "Dad?" Elena asked. Arthur stopped, resting the axe against his leg. "Yes, Ellie? You said you were going to make phone calls, but you haven't been on the phone. You've just been gardening." Arthur smiled, a small, cryptic lifting of the corner of his mouth. He walked over, wiping sweat from his brow. "Do you know how a demolition expert brings down a building, Ellie?" he asked. "Explosives?" "Placement," Arthur corrected. "Any idiot can blow things up. But if you want the building to fall into its own footprint without damaging the structures next door, you don't use force. You weaken the structural integrity at critical points. You cut the steel beams that hold the weight. Gravity does the rest." "I don't understand," she said. "Julian is a building," Arthur said, sitting on the porch steps. "I'm not attacking him. I am simply removing the beams he didn't know were holding him up." "But how?" Elena pressed. "You're just one man." Arthur reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, silver USB drive. He tossed it to her. "What is this?" "That," Arthur said, "is the digital key to the back door of the banking software used by Banco de Panama. I wrote the original compliance code for them in 1998. They never changed the master override password." Elena stared at the drive. "You stole his money?" "I repatriated your money," Arthur corrected, "and I donated it, in his name. He can't sue to get it back without admitting he embezzled it in the first place. It's the perfect trap. If he screams, he goes to jail. If he stays silent, he's broke." Elena looked at her father with wide eyes. "Who are you, Dad?" Arthur stood up and picked up the axe. "I'm just a father who doesn't like bullies. Now how about some tea?" Back in Manhattan, Julian was tearing his office apart. He had fired his IT director an hour ago for incompetence. He was currently screaming at Marcus, his lawyer. "I don't care how it happened, Marcus. Fix it. That money was the collateral for the Vanguard deal." Marcus looked pale. He was pacing the room, checking his own phone constantly. "Julian, listen to me," Marcus said, his voice trembling. "It's not just the Panama account. I just got a call from the State Bar Association." "So?" "They're auditing me," Marcus whispered. "Someone sent them a dossier. Every dirty settlement, every bribed witness from the last 10 years. They have dates, Julian. They have recordings." Julian froze. "Who?" "I don't know," Marcus said, sweating profusely. "But the email came from an anonymous server. The subject line just said, 'The first domino.'" Julian sank into his chair. The silence in the room was deafening. "Who are we fighting, Marcus?" Julian asked quietly. "I don't know," the lawyer replied. "But whoever they are, they know everything." November 10th, 2023. The Metropolitan Gala. Despite the chaos erupting behind the scenes, Julian insisted on attending the Metropolitan Charity Gala. It was the social event of the season. Appearances were everything. If the market smelled fear, Thorn Logistics stock would plummet. He wore a $5,000 tuxedo. Sophia was on his arm, wearing a red dress that screamed for attention. But Julian wasn't looking at her. His eyes were darting around the room, scanning the faces of the city's elite. Usually, people flocked to him. Tonight, he felt a chill. When he approached the table of the city comptroller, a man Julian had golfed with for years, the man suddenly found great interest in his salad. "Bill," Julian said, forcing a smile. "Good to see you." "Julian," Bill said curtly, not standing up. "Busy night." Julian felt the snub like a physical slap. He moved to the bar. He ordered a double scotch. "Rough night?" Julian turned. Standing next to him was an older man, distinguished, with silver hair and a monocle. It was heavy-hitter investor Silas Thorne, no relation, a man Julian had been trying to court for years. "Just the usual envy," Julian quipped. "I heard about the Vanguard deal stalling," Silas said, swirling his wine. "Rumor has it there are liquidity issues." "Lies spread by competitors," Julian insisted. "Is it?" Silas turned to face him fully. "Because I received a very interesting fax this morning. Yes, a fax. Old school." "What did it say?" Julian asked, his throat tight. "It was a transcript," Silas said, lowering his voice, "of a conversation between you and your mistress, your fiancée, at the grill, the night of your divorce." Julian's blood ran cold. The conversation where he bragged about hiding assets. "That's illegal," Julian hissed. "That's wiretapping." "It's information, Julian," Silas said coldly. "And in this town, information is currency. The transcript was sent to the entire board of directors of Vanguard. They aren't just pausing the merger, son. They're pulling out. Tonight." Silas patted Julian on the shoulder. "You're toxic, Julian. Nobody is going to touch you. You're radioactive." Silas walked away. Julian stood alone at the bar, the noise of the party fading into a high-pitched ringing in his ears. He grabbed Sophia's arm, hard. "We're leaving." "Ow! Julian, stop! I haven't even had dessert." "We're leaving now." He dragged her out of the ballroom, ignoring the stairs. The car ride home. "You're hurting me," Sophia screamed as he sped down the highway. "What is wrong with you?" "Shut up!" Julian roared, hitting the steering wheel. "Someone is doing this. Someone is systematically destroying me." "Who?" Sophia cried. "Elena? She's too stupid." "It's not Elena," Julian yelled. It has to be someone powerful, a competitor, maybe Vanguard themselves trying to lower the price." He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. It was a private investigator named Rocco, a man who found dirt for a living. "Rocco, it's Thorne. I need a job done. Tonight." "I'm expensive, Mr. Thorne," Rocco's gravelly voice answered. "I don't care. I need you to find out everything you can about Arthur Vance, my ex-wife's father." "Vance?" Rocco paused. The silence on the line stretched for 10 seconds. "Rocco? I can't take the job, Mr. Thorne." "What? I'll pay double." "I don't want your money," Rocco said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "If you're messing with Arthur Vance, you're already dead. You just don't know it yet." "He's a tomato farmer," Julian screamed. "He's the eraser," Rocco said. 20 years ago, he dismantled the Coretti crime family from the inside using nothing but a spreadsheet. He made 3 billionaires disappear from the Forbes list in a week. We all thought he died. If he's coming for you, my advice, run. Leave the country. Don't go home. Click. Julian stared at the phone. The eraser. He looked at Sophia. She was staring at him with wide, terrified eyes. "Julian," she whispered, pointing out the window. "Look." They were pulling up to the Greenwich estate. The house was dark, but it wasn't just the lights. The front gate was open. And sitting on the front steps of the massive mansion was a single wooden chair. Sitting in the chair was a small, leather-bound book. Julian stopped the car. He told Sophia to stay inside. He walked slowly up the driveway, the gravel crunching under his dress shoes. The wind howled through the trees. He reached the chair. He picked up the book. It was one of the books he had kicked into the gutter. The Count of Monte Cristo. It was dry, clean. There was a bookmark sticking out. Julian opened it to the marked page. A passage was highlighted in yellow. "I have been taken by Satan into the highest mountain in the earth. And when he showed me all the kingdoms of the world, and said to me, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me, I said, Get thee behind me, Satan. Below the text, a note was handwritten in elegant cursive. You worshipped